Association football, more commonly known as football or soccer, is a sport played between two teams of 11 players with a spherical ball. It is played by 250 million players in over 150 countries, making it the world's most popular sport. The game is played on a rectangular field with a goal at each end. The object of the game is to score by getting the ball into the opposing goal. The goalkeepers are the only players allowed to touch the ball with their hands or arms while it is in play and only in their penalty area. Outfield players mostly use their feet to strike or pass the ball, but may also use their head or torso to do so instead. The team that scores the most goals by the end of the match wins. If the score is level at the end of the game, either a draw is declared or the game goes into extra time or a penalty shootout depending on the format of the competition. The laws of the game were originally codified in England by the Football Association in 1863. Association football is governed internationally by the International Federation of Association Football, which organizes World Cups for both men and women every 4 years. History. According to FIFA, the competitive game Judo is the earliest form of football for which there is scientific evidence. Judo players could use any of the body apart from hands and the intent was kicking a ball through an opening into a net. It was remarkably similar to modern football, though similarities to rugby occurred. During the Han Dynasty, Judo games were standardized and rules were established. Faninda and Episkairos were Greek ball games. An image of an Episkairos player taken from an ancient stone carving held by the Acropolis Museum appears on the UEFA European Championship Cup. Athenaeus, writing in 228 AD, a reference the Roman ball game harpaestum. Faninda, Episkairos and harpaestum were played involving hands and violence. They all appear to have resembled rugby, football, wrestling and volleyball more than what is recognizable as modern football. As with pre-codified mob football, the antecedent of all modern football codes, these three games involved more handling the ball than kicking. Non-competitive games included Kemari in Japan, Chukji UK in Korea and Wagabalari in Australia. Association football in itself does not have a classical history. Notwithstanding any similarities to other ball games played around the world, FIFA have recognized that no historical connection exists with any game played in antiquity outside Europe. The modern rules of association football are based on the mid-19th century efforts to standardize the widely varying forms of football played in the public schools of England. The history of football in England dates back to at least the 8th century AD. The Cambridge Rules, first drawn up at Cambridge University in 1848, were particularly influential in the development of subsequent codes, including association football. The Cambridge Rules were written at Trinity College, Cambridge, at a meeting attended by representatives from Eton, Harrow, Rugby, Winchester and Shrewsbury schools. They were not universally adopted. During the 1850s, many clubs unconnected to schools or universities were formed throughout the English-speaking world to play various forms of football. Some came up with their own distinct codes of rules, most notably the Sheffield Football Club, formed by former public school pupils in 1857, which led to formation of a Sheffield FA in 1867. In 1862, John Charles Thring of Uppingham School also devised an influential set of rules. These ongoing efforts contributed to the formation of the Football Association in 1863, which first met on the morning of the 26th of October 1863 at the Freemasons Tavern in Great Queen Street, London. The only school to be represented on this occasion was Charterhouse. The Freemasons Tavern was the setting for 5 more meetings between October and December, which eventually produced the first comprehensive set of rules. At the final meeting, the first FA treasurer, the representative from Blackheath, withdrew his club from the FA over the removal of 2 draft rules at the previous meeting. The first allowed for running with the ball in hand, the second for obstructing such a run by hacking, tripping and holding. Other English rugby clubs followed this lead and did not join the FA, and instead in 1871 formed the Rugby Football Union. The 11 remaining clubs, under the charge of Ebenezer Cogmorley, went on to ratify the original 13 laws of the game. These rules included handling of the ball by marks, and the lack of a crossbar, rules which made it remarkably similar to Victorian rules football being developed at that time in Australia. The world's oldest football competition is the FA Cup, which was founded by C.W. Alcock and has been contested by English teams since 1872. The first official international football match also took place in 1872, between Scotland and England in Glasgow, again at the instigation of C.W. Alcock. England is also home to the world's first football league, which was founded in Birmingham in 1888 by Aston Villa director William McGregor. The original format contained 12 clubs from the Midlands and Northern England. The laws of the game are determined by the International Football Association Board. The board was formed in 1886 after a meeting in Manchester of the Football Association, the Scottish Football Association, the Football Association of Wales, and the Irish Football Association. FIFA, the international football body, was formed in Paris in 1904 and declared that they would adhere to laws of the game of the Football Association. The growing popularity of the international game led to the admittance of FIFA representatives to the International Football Association Board in 1913. The board consists of 4 representatives from FIFA and 1 representative from each of the 4 British associations. Today, football is played at a professional level all over the world. Millions of people regularly go to football stadiums to follow their favorite teams, while billions more watch the game on television or on the internet. A very large number of people also play football at an amateur level. According to a survey conducted by FIFA published in 2001, over 240 million people from more than 200 countries regularly play football. Football has the highest global television audience in sport. In many parts of the world, football evokes great passions and plays an important role in the life of individual fans, local communities, and even nations. R. Karpushinsky says that Europeans who are polite, modest, or humble fall easily into rage when playing or watching football games. The Côte d'Ivoire national football team helped secure a truce to the nation's civil war in 2006, and it helped further reduce tensions between government and rebel forces in 2007 by playing a match in the rebel capital of Bouaket, an occasion that brought both armies together peacefully for the first time. The sport also exacerbated tensions at the beginning of the Yugoslav wars of the 1990s. When a match between Dinamo Zagreb and Red Star Belgrade degenerated into rioting in May 1990. Women's Association Football has been played by women since at least the time of the first recorded women's games in the late 19th century. It has traditionally been associated with charity games and physical exercise, particularly in the United Kingdom. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Women's Association Football was organised in the United Kingdom, eventually becoming the most prominent team sport for British women. The growth in women's football has seen major competitions being launched at both national and international level, mirroring the male competitions. Women's football has faced many struggles. It had a golden age in the United Kingdom in the early 1920s when crowds reached 50,000 at some matches. This was stopped on 5 December 1921 when England's Football Association voted to ban the game from grounds used by its member clubs. The FA's ban was rescinded in December 1969, with UEFA voting to officially recognise women's football in 1971. The FIFA Women's World Cup was inaugurated in 1991 and has been held every 4 years since, while women's football has been an Olympic event since 1996. Etymology and names. The rules of association football were codified in England by the Football Association in 1863, and the name association football was coined to distinguish the game from the other forms of football played at the time, specifically rugby football. The term soccer originated in England, first appearing in the 1880s as an Oxford abbreviation of the word association. Within the English-speaking world, association football is now usually called football in the United Kingdom and mainly soccer in Canada and the United States. People in Australia, Ireland and New Zealand use either or both terms, although national associations in Australia and New Zealand now primarily use football for the formal name. Gameplay. Association football is played in accordance with a set of rules known as the laws of the game. The game is played using a spherical ball of 68.5–69.5 cm circumference, known as the football. Two teams of 11 players each compete to get the ball into the other team's goal, thereby scoring a goal. Each team is led by a captain who has only one official responsibility as mandated by the laws of the game: to be involved in the coin toss prior to kickoff or penalty kicks. The primary law is that players other than goalkeepers may not deliberately handle the ball with their hands or arms during play, though they do use their hands during a throw-in restart. Although players usually use their feet to move the ball around, they may use any part of their body other than their hands or arms. Within normal play, all players are free to play the ball in any direction and move throughout the pitch, though the ball cannot be received in an offside position. In game play, players attempt to create goal-scoring opportunities through individual control of the ball, such as by dribbling, passing the ball to a teammate, and by taking shots at the goal, which is guarded by the opposing goalkeeper. Opposing players may try to regain control of the ball by intercepting a pass or through tackling the opponent in possession of the ball. However, physical contact between opponents is restricted. Football is generally a free-flowing game, with play stopping only when the ball has left the field of play or when play is stopped by the referee for an infringement of the rules. After a stoppage, play recommences with a specified restart. At a professional level, most matches produce only a few goals. For example, the 2005-06 season of the English Premier League produced an average of 2.48 goals per match. The laws of the game do not specify any player positions other than goalkeeper, but a number of specialized roles have evolved. Broadly, these include three main categories: strikers, or forwards, whose main task is to score goals; defenders, who specialize in preventing their opponents from scoring; and midfielders, who dispossess the opposition and keep possession of the ball to pass it to the forwards on their team. Players in these positions are referred to as outfield players, to distinguish them from the goalkeeper. These positions are further subdivided according to the area of the field in which the player spends most time. For example, there are central defenders, and left and right midfielders. The 10 outfield players may be arranged in any combination. The number of players in each position determines the style of the team's play. More forwards and fewer defenders creates a more aggressive and offensive-minded game, while the reverse creates a slower, more defensive style of play. While players typically spend most of the game in a specific position, there are few restrictions on player movement, and players can switch positions at any time. The layout of a team's players is known as a formation. Defining the team's formation and tactics is usually the prerogative of the team's manager.